G'day guys, back to the Outer Circle. In this episode of getting started in the Horus Heresy, we're going to be looking at the Emperor's Children. Now this is a part 3 episode for the Legion. We've covered in the first episode, building the Legion, bits you might use, that kind of thing. In the second episode, we covered off on the basic rules for the Legion, as well as their specialist units. In part 3, we are looking at the characters and the Primarchs. And in this instance, we actually have access to all of the characters and the Primarch, which is pretty rare, so this time out, I'm actually going to show them as I talk about them. So, first off, Lord Commander Eidolon. Eidolon is up there as far as characters go. He is a superb duelist, and it's really the jump pack that puts him heads and shoulders above many others. It's a bit of a joke in my head that didn't pan out then about, he has a head, because his head got cut off. But anyway, the interesting thing about Eidolon is when he does charge, which he is more than likely to do thanks to the fact he actually has a jump pack, he will be striking at initiative with his Thunderhammer, and he has a very high initiative, which will be further boosted by the fact that he's going to be having things like Sonic Shriekers. So Eidolon is phenomenal on the charge at killing other characters. However, there are a lot of things that are very resilient to this. Obviously, anything toughness 5 or battle hardened toughness 4 is going to be an issue for him. He just simply won't be able to do the damage to them. This especially will stack when it comes to things like Primarchs. So, although it's great for him that he can do an extreme amount of attacks at initiative with a brutal Thunderhammer, he still can't do enough to reliably kill those kinds of characters, and in turn will probably get put down by them because, well, he isn't an Eternal Warrior. So, yeah, there's a downside there. Now, as for his other little rules, he has this weird little thing where he picks a rival, and it's going to be someone like a Primarch or an enemy Praetor, and you get bonuses against them, like +1 to hit them in close combat. I think it's a little bit more situational because, again, you don't want to throw him at a Primarch unless maybe he was backing someone else like Lucius or his own Primarch, because he is going to die. But because he is, well, he's kind of a cocky bastard who thinks he's better than he is, if you want to roleplay as Eidolon or something, I think fill your boots, go for gold, it would be funny as hell. Anyway, not too much to say about it, but he is a really strong character. Doesn't do much for the army though, so do remember he is a one-trick pony that he runs in and kills things very quickly with his hammer. May be good at dealing with Terminator squads, but again, by the time it's round 2, you're striking at initiative 1 with Thunderhammer. It's not going to be a pleasant experience for him then, because anything that did survive and can return hits with Thunderhammers or Power Fists is going to kill him. So, next one along, we're going to talk about Saul Tarvitz. So, Saul Tarvitz was released after Eidolon, that's why he's next in the order of things. Saul Tarvitz is an interesting character. He's the only loyalist choice that's available to you for a start. Although I do think Lucius should have been given the option to be taken as a loyalist or a traitor, just you don't get the Blade of the Lear or any augmentations on him as a loyalist. But anyway, because he did fight at Isfahan 3 for quite a long time before swapping sides. Now, Saul Tarvitz is a more supporting character. He can have the potential to do a lot in close combat because he is an Emperor's Children Space Marine at the end of the day, and he does get certain buffs, and like the initiative buff on the charge, but his weapon kind of sucks. It's only going to be strength 6, so unless you're getting someone else to join you in the combat that's got, say, rad grenades, it's not getting instant death. It's a good weapon, don't get me wrong, mastercrafted, charnable broadsword, strength 2, rending on a 4+, duelist edge, so high initiative. But yeah, not that great. But he does have a Nemesis bolt gun, which is pretty nice, and really the thing that you want to take him for is he creates a 12-inch bubble of Fearless around him. So he will allow loyalist Emperor's Children to stick in the battle a lot longer thanks to this ability. That said though, he is definitely not up there. He's better than a Legion Praetor, probably, but he is not up there with the likes of actual duelists. Eidolon will beat him, and then of course we've got the next guy, which is Captain Lucius. Captain Lucius will also beat him very badly. Lucius is in that sort of top 5 characters, I'd say, in the Heresy when it comes to dueling. So my top 5 picks would probably be in order: Sigismund, Corswain, Sevatar, Lucius Khan. That's probably the order I would put them in. And he is up there because he does a lot of attacks, very fast, has lots of bonuses against characters, lots of bonuses in challenges. He has, obviously, Sonic Shriekers. He has Duelist Edge on one of his weapons. That same weapon can also transfer its weapon skill over to the other weapon, which is the Blade of the Lear, the same weapon that the Primarch Fulgrim uses. The Blade of the Lear is not a very good weapon, but it is an AP2 at initiative weapon. Which is, that is solid, of course. And it is Fleshbane, which is, again, useful, but there are situations where Fleshbane is less useful. For example, you're fighting against someone like Mortarion, which is not a place you want to be in anyway. But Mortarion will laugh at the fact you've got Fleshbane. It's the way it is. So keep that in the back of your mind. Now, on the charge, Lucius is phenomenal, and people won't be able to hide from him too well, because even though other characters can issue and accept challenges and such, Lucius does have Precision Strikes 3+, so if he's able to just attack the squad, he will just start picking who he wants to die out of that squad. He's really good at that. The only thing that lets Lucius down is, like his 40k version, he doesn't have any improved mobility, and of course that's always a major concern with these close combat characters. With Sigismund, he has Eternal Warrior, so it's okay if he gets shot at a little bit. With Corswain, you can put him in something like Deathwing Companions, where he's immune to being sniped off. Lucius doesn't benefit from that, so it's a bit of a problem for him. Whereas someone like, Sevatar, for example, he can get there very quickly because he has things like a lot of high-speed transports available to him, which, yes, Lucius also does, but the Night Lords just do it better than Emperor's Children do. But I do quite like Lucius, and as I said, he's number 4 in my pick of best duelists in the Horus Heresy, as it stands. And I suppose that takes us lastly to Fulgrim himself. Now, Fulgrim he's not a glass cannon per se, but he is very much just taking Lucius and dialing it up to 11. I guess it's the best way to look at it. Very good weapon skill 8, so equal highest in the game. Very high initiative. I think he's initiative 8 base, and you can boost that in 2 different ways. Either through Duelist Edge on weapons, or you can boost it through his Emperor's Children abilities, or you can actually boost it as well thanks to things like Sudden Strike in challenges and such. And yeah, he's very, very quick. He will get his hits in. Downside is, though, he is not a high strength. His high strength weapon is going to be the Fireblade, which is my personal preference on him. I do think that is the better weapon. Because it has Murderous Strike, it can do instant death, and the highest strength on it means that it will be effective at all times. Whereas the Blade of the Lear, Fleshbane is cool and all, but that is not always going to work. There are certain things, like I said, with Lucius that are immune to the Blade of the Lear. Therefore, you have to keep that in the back of your mind when you go to use this model. As it comes to how he actually helps the Legion out, he is probably one of the best Primarchs in buffing the Legion. So he's got a pretty cool set of special rules there. The biggest one being that he's going to give Leadership 10 to the entire Legion. Now, this Legion does have some high leadership units anyway. Take, for example, the Cacophony. I had the suggestion in a previous episode to put the Cacophony with a Master of Signals, because that Master of Signals can transfer that leadership to another squad. We don't even need to use that combo if you have Fulgrim, because he will transfer Leadership 10 army-wide, which means you're going to be very resistant to things like morale checks, pinning checks, and if you have stubborn units, that's really going to help you out. Another interesting thing about him is he has this thing called Tactical Excellence, which you just pick at the start of a phase if you want to use it, and if anyone tries to use a reaction against Fulgrim, they have to actually pass a morale check against it. And if they don't pass the morale check, they don't get to use their reaction. So, very interesting little ability there, and hey, it costs you nothing. It's not a reaction or anything, it's just, you have it. Fulgrim is quite good. As far as challenges go, he can do it. He can kill other Primarchs, but I'd say in this edition, Ferrus probably has the better chance, although he's getting less hits on Fulgrim. Fulgrim is very much relying on the amount of strikes he has to get enough wounds through, whereas someone like Ferrus, brutal 3 attacks, it's going to cause damage to Fulgrim. Fulgrim does have a boosted 3+ invulnerable save in close combat, which is strong, but is it strong enough? I don't really think so. And outside of challenges and outside of charges, Fulgrim really, he becomes that glass cannon. He loses all of those buffs and abilities and the things he would get. So if you find yourself in the second wave of close combat, you need to be very deathly scared of things like Thunderhammers, because although they'll have a hard time hitting you, if they do, they're going to hit you like a freight train, because they still will wound you on 2s. And if you go up against someone that has, say, I know Raven Guard with Decapitation Strike is a good example, they're going to get preferred enemy, and they're going to be rolling a crap load of attacks against you, and anything that fails to wound is going to get a reroll, and on a 2+ it will wound. So Power Fist, Thunderhammers, and Round 2 in close combat are all nemesis of Fulgrim. If there are jump pack units that can get the charge off on him, that is also going to cause him issues. That said, if he does win a close combat, he's going to automatically sweep with 8 inches added to his sweep roll, so he's pretty much going to run anything in the game down. But of course, most of the units that actually go up against him in close combat are going to be loaded up with either fearless units or stubborn units or things that just aren't going to flee from combat very easily. Praetors have buffed out command squads, big Terminator squads, and other Primarchs. So I don't know how often that will actually come into play. Anyway, that's it for the Emperor's Children. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Getting Started in the Horus Heresy, and the next episode is going to be on the Iron Warriors. And since, of course, we have 0 characters to show for them, we're just going to show Perturabo once more. Anyway, see you all for that episode.